The first round of the college football playoffs is over, and the results we obtained were both expected and unexpected. Alabama beat Oklahoma on the road despite being down by 17 points at one point during the game. Miami beat Texas A&M in a defensive battle dominated by the 30 miles per hour wind gust, and Ole Miss and Oregon beat their Group of 5 opponents with relative ease. And I want to talk about those two Group of 5 teams. For the first time in college football playoffs history, we had two Group of 5 teams make the dance. Tulane and James Madison. You would think college football fans would be intrigued and excited to see two Group of 5 teams make it in, right? Well, before these two teams even took the field, people were making a fuss that two G5 teams made it in.
Take them out the college football playoffs.
College football has a problem right now.
Talk to me.
Because why in the world are schools like the University of Ohio Bobcats, the University of Miami, Ohio, Bowling Green, competing, Akron, the Akron Zips, why are those teams competing for the same national title that the Georgia Bulldogs are?
You don't want them to get a chance.
I don't want them to. I do not want them to get a shot to shine. I want a good team to play Oregon.
They're both going to lose by 25 to 45 points. They'll be unwatchable games and get them out of a playoff.
For some reason, a lot of people have been critical of the G5 schools and are bewildered that they are getting a shot at the national title. And after both Tulane and JMU lost, those talks got even louder. First of all, it's not like we haven't seen teams get blown out in the playoffs before. In last year's playoffs, we saw teams like Tennessee and SMU get blown out. Heck, even in the 4-team playoff format, we were seeing teams get blown out regularly. But we see a G5 team get blown out, then all of a sudden it's bad for the sport. We all knew it was a possibility for at least two G5 teams to make it in. But for some reason, people are choosing to ignore that and demand change immediately. With the way the current playoff system works, there are 5 auto bids for conference champions. In theory, that means there will be 4 Power 4 conference champions and 1 G5 champion. Hypothetically, if one conference craps the bed, that would give us 2 G5 teams in the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened. Getting mad at the G5 for having 2 teams in the playoffs, even though we all knew it could have been a possibility, is like when Lex Luthor blamed Superman for giving him cancer, even though he was the one constantly handling the weird glowing alien rock stuff. But when it comes to college football fans, they tend to have short memories. I feel like what gets lost in all of this is that a lot of people seem to forget why we have this playoff system in the first place. In the early history of college football, there wasn't an official game between the number 1 and 2 ranked teams to determine who was the national champion. National champions were decided on by the media in the AP poll and the coaches poll. The problem was that neither the AP and coaches poll were on the same side. So usually, that gave us years where we would see split champions. To combat this issue, the Bowl Coalition and the Bowl Alliance were founded in 1992 and 1995 respectively. It had 5 conferences and Notre Dame. The idea was to match up the number 1 and number 2 ranked teams against each other in a legit national title game and one of the rotating bowl games, despite the bowl tie-ins. The problem was that both the Coalition and Alliance didn't include the Big Ten and Pac-10 champions due to their contractual obligations to play in the Rose Bowl. They also didn't include teams from mid-major conferences like the WAC, Big West, and Mid-American Conference. And the exclusion of the mid-majors would come back to bite them later on. In 1996, the BYU Cougars went 14-1, but despite having only 1 loss, they didn't get any national championship votes and were relegated to the Cotton Bowl. Because of this snub, this would lead to a congressional hearing focusing on exclusion of the non-automatic qualifier conferences, unfair revenue distribution, and antitrust concerns. Due to the potential for congressional action, the Bowl Alliance will be replaced by the BCS. The BCS was a selection system designed to match the 2 top-ranked teams in a single title game using the polls and computer ratings. But due to the BCS's chaotic nature, it would give us moments like this.
Of importance, the key issue being, where would Oklahoma drop? Started with the coaches, USC, after beating Oregon State, number 1, SEC champion, LSU number 2, the Sooners tumbled from 1 to 3, and the AP mirrored the coaches. So, as a result, after we get these polls, what do we have in the BCS standings? Oh, no. Inverting. Whoa.
The BCS was not perfect and faced its fair share of criticism. After the BCS, we were given the playoff system we have now, starting with 4 teams before shifting to 12 teams. The reason why I am mentioning all the old and current ways we decided how to crown a national champion is that I wanted to show that no matter what system is in place, people are going to get mad regardless. When looking at the current state of college football, with its bloated conferences, it means there aren't going to be many divisions in said conferences. The only FBS conference that still has divisions is the Sun Belt. So obviously, when you have so many teams in a singular conference, some teams are going to miss out, which means there is little room for error if you want to make the playoffs. But instead of looking inwards, let's just blame the G5 for taking a spot away from a deserving Power 4 school who didn't win the games they needed to. What sucks about all of this is that if the critics got what they wanted, that would mean getting rid of the auto bids, which would most likely keep out the G5. And if that was to happen, that would just be another slap in the face to the mid-majors. Before the introduction of the current playoff system, mid-major football teams were never really given a fair shot at the chance to at least compete in a national title game. The last consensus national champion to come out of the mid-majors was BYU in 1984, and after that happened, it became more difficult for another mid-major to win a title. There are examples of very good mid-major teams that were snubbed from at least getting a chance to compete for a title. Tulane, Marshall, Utah, Boise State, TCU, UCF. The reason why we have the current playoff system is that Congress explored the possibility of hitting the NCAA with an antitrust lawsuit because of the inequality of the BCS. Let's not forget that. The NCAA almost got hit with a antitrust lawsuit because of how unfair the BCS were to non-power schools. Do you know how crazy that sounds? Getting hit with an antitrust lawsuit because you're being unfair? That's crazy work. When it comes to seeing Cinderella teams in other college sports, like baseball and basketball, it's what makes it so enjoyable. They welcome the chaos and they don't exclude them because they play in a lower tier conference. I know football is a very, very different sport, but I feel like we will see a Cinderella team in the college football playoffs one day. And it's not a matter of if, but when it happens. But for my final thoughts on the matter, I feel like we should all come together and blame the real problem for the current discussion around the G5. It's not because of the current state of college football with NIL and the transfer portal, and it's not because of the inconsistent playoff committee. No. We should all come together as a unified nation and blame the ACC. No, seriously, if the ACC would just get their crap together, none of this discussion about getting rid of the G5 teams in playoffs would be happening right now. The ACC was such a mess this year, and the teams we thought were competent were not. Because of the conference cannibalism that happened, we were given a ACC title matchup between Virginia and Duke. Yes, Virginia-Duke. I'm talking about football, by the way, not basketball. All Virginia had to do was win, and they were getting an auto bid. But guess what happened?
Play. Another 4th down conversion there. 4th. They go to a trick play. Taylor threw it back to Moore. It was intercepted. Intercepted by Lefberg. And Duke has won the ACC.
So because of Virginia losing to Duke, that meant the committee had a decision to make, and there was no chance in hell that an unranked 8-5 Duke was going to get in over one of the higher ranked conference champions from the G5. If that was to happen, the college football world would have lost their damn minds. And let's not forget the ACC champion Duke Blue Devils lost to Tulane in the regular season. So in conclusion, this is all the ACC's fault, and we should make fun of them more. Thank you for watching this video. Please leave a like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel. You can also watch another one of my videos that is on the screen right now. But anyway guys, that is all from me. I am OneDubs. Thanks for stopping by.